Hey everybody, Mike from Cyberfueled IT here, and I've got a video today to discuss installing a new video card into your PC. So stick around, we'll go through the details. Installing your video card or a new video card in your PC is relatively straightforward and easy even in 2025. The process hasn't changed in a very long time, but with graphics cards changing, there's a few caveats to look out for when you're installing or looking to purchase a brand new video card and what you need to understand. So, if you've got a current machine and it's relatively new, the first thing you need to make sure is that can your power supply support the new video card from a wattage perspective? Every video card has a recommended wattage amount that it needs to actually run, whether it's 500 watt, 600 watt, 700 watt, or lower, depending on whatever it is, and that can be up to 1,000 watt or greater. So depending on the video card, usually there's a minimum that is recommended from a power supply perspective because some of these cards can take up a lot of juice and use a lot of power. So first thing you need to understand is, can your current power supply handle the video card? How do you find that out? Well, there's not an easy way, unfortunately, to find out from within Windows. You'll have to take the side panel off and look for a stamp on the side of your power supply, understanding the actual wattage and how much it actually can support from a wattage perspective. Two, you're going to need the original cables that came with that power supply. So when you get your power supply, usually there are spare accessory cables like this that are tagged with VGA. That are tagged with VGA. These cables are what you're going to need. You cannot use any cable on your power supply. So if you've had a bunch of power supplies over the last few years or you've swapped a few out, each one of these power supplies, even though it should be standard, but it's not, the pins are all different voltages. So these voltages and these pins here could be different per manufacturer. So if you use one that's not supported on a manufacturer, you risk damaging both your video card, your components, your power supply, all different sorts of things. So make sure you're using the original cables, accessory cables that came with that power supply. That is a very important note. If you've bought third-party cables, make sure that they are from a reputable company, such as Cable Mods or whatever it may be, and you've picked the correct model power supply to ship those extensions or those cable mods, whatever you've ordered. Those will also be supported as well. So keep that in mind. Those pinouts can be different voltages, cause lots of problems, especially if you plug it in and it's not the right voltage, it'll fry stuff. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes those accessory cables are labeled, sometimes they are not. So in case of my Superflower, that's what I have for a power supply, my cables are just labeled VGA. There is no other stamping, there's no other indicators, nothing. It's just labeled VGA. I wouldn't know just by looking at this that this goes to my Superflower unless it was in my little bag that says Superflower. So right here, my little baggie with all my Superflower cables are right there. I would have no idea. No idea. And that's one of the things that people run into a lot of times is they throw these cables off to the side. They've got other power supplies. And the next thing you know, they're like, shit, I don't know where this goes. Some companies are getting pretty good, such as EVGA. EVGA has been marking their accessory cables. Very smart move. So they also mark them with their brand, EVGA, on them. And if you take a look at the side, they mark EVGA or VGA G3. So I know that this is an accessory cable to my EVGA G3 power supply that's in one of my other rigs, which is great because I've got two bags here with EVGA cables. All I have to do is look at the stamped ends and understand that, hey, these go to my G3. The other ones probably wouldn't use them. Never know what would happen. And that's because, which I wish EVGA would do, they're all in the same bag type. So I like to buy EVGA power supplies. I really do enjoy them. But if they weren't marked, I wouldn't know which bag to go through. I'd end up throwing them out or having to order extra cables. So keep that in mind. Save your cables. Make sure they're labeled properly. If you have to, get a label maker, put them on there. Because if you mix up the cables and you risk damage to your components, it's better off to just throw them away or order replacements so that you know they are supported for that power supply. If you are unsure, there's not really a good way to tell, and you do not want to test by trial and error because that could risk damage to your parts. Doesn't mean it could happen. It's a possibility. Cables might work just fine because they plug in the same, the connectors are the same, but all of those pins could be a different voltage. I really wish there was a universal voltage standard across the board. Unfortunately, it's not. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your power supplies. The other thing you need to look at is if you know your power supply supports the video card, or you think it might. When you get your new video card, this is the card we're going to be installing today. We're going to be installing 7900 XTX. This is the Radeon, the Tai Chi, the white version. We're going to put that into a rig today. But on the back, there is a minimum requirement right over here of 1,000 watts or greater. Now, that's the minimum. So when you purchase your new video card, make sure that you have the minimum requirements for that video card. Now, that is a very heavy-duty video card. It's a high-end video card. So it's one of those that requires a lot of power, a lot of juice. Not all video cards will require 1,000 watts. This one, unfortunately, does as a minimum. The power supply that I have, I believe, is 1,200 watts, so it supports it. It doesn't mean that video card is going to draw 1,000 watts. It's just what they want to support it. In most cases, those video cards will pull 300 to 400 watts, but with the rest of the system components, they want to make sure that everything is covered. A normal system might draw anywhere from 200 to 300, depending on all your accessories and what you're installed. So if you're tacking on another 300 to 400 watt video card, that's closer to 700 watts. So they just want to make sure there's enough overhead there with everything that's going on. So it's more of just an industry standard for what you're looking for. Now, if you're building a new PC, one tip that I do recommend is adding or overpowering, I guess I'll call it overpowering, adding additional wattage to your system in case you ever want to upgrade. What I mean by that is, let's say that your current budget only allocates you an 800 watt power supply, but you're not using that for all the video card and you've got plenty of overhead. That's fine. If you don't ever plan on going down the line to 7900 XTX or whatever AMD's offering or NVIDIA's new offering, then you're fine. You really don't have to worry about it. But if you want to leave in some future upgradability and not have to worry about swapping out a power supply down the road, it's always good to add additional juice into that. So, for example, I have a 1200 watt and I purchased the 1200 watt because the way that I saw video cards trending, they're using more juice. I don't want to have to rip out that power supply and replace it to do an upgraded video card. I just want to be able to pull the video card, add additional cables if need be, and then plug the video card back in, hook up the cables, and I'm good to go. I don't want to have to rip it all apart, re-cable manage the whole power supply, the whole nine. It turns into a larger job to redo the entire power supply plus the video card when all you have to do is just the video card. So keep it in mind, if you're building a new machine, you're building a new rig, look for maybe going up a little higher on the wattage from a power supply perspective so that you do not have to rip your entire machine apart just to upgrade that video card, okay? Now, if you're not looking at the high-end stuff and you have a 1,000 watt power supply and you're buying like 4060s and 4070s and 5070s, you're most likely fine with 1,000 watt. But keep in mind, if you're looking to go to like a 5090 or a 4090, those are going to require a lot more juice. They require different power connectors as well, like ATX 3.0. So make sure you've got the support for all of that stuff as well. So if you've got comments or questions, ask down below. Happy to answer through the YouTube channel, in the video, whatever it may be. So what else are you going to need to install this video card? Last thing you're going to need is a toolkit. Most of the time, you can get by with these tools right here, fingers, because a lot of video cards might just be secured by a latch or a thumb screw, whatever it is. Every case can be different. Some cases they're secured by just a Phillips head, screw holding that in. A couple of them, pull them off, you're good. Sometimes it's just thumb screws. But get yourself a toolkit. iFixit is a really good brand. For those that are looking, you get all the tools that you might need, all in a nice, fancy package like so. So gives you all the bits, all the stuff you're looking for. And it's got this really neat magnetic case too that makes life a whole lot easier to keep it organized. But not sponsored by them, but they're a pretty good reputable brand. Been using them for a long time. So just get yourself a toolkit, or a Phillips head screwdriver is all you're going to need. Either Phillips head to unscrew the screw or to break the tension on the thumb screw itself if you got weak pointer and thumbs. So other than that, everything else that's going to be done is going to be done in Windows. because we're going to prep the machine to swap the video card. And especially if you're changing brands, it's good to uninstall all of the drivers prior to installing that new video card so Windows can set it up. You can even pre-download the drivers for what we're going to do. And we're going to walk through that now. So let's go over to Windows and take a look, and I'll show you the steps that I take to wipe the system clean. Well, not the system, but video drivers clean. Okay, so we're in Windows, right? Here's my little background. It's my little mech. I'm a big MechWarrior fan, so take it with a grain of salt. But what we need to do is, and what I like to do is I like to download a utility called Display Driver Uninstaller, or also known as DDU. So DDU, if you just go ahead and do DDU, you will get a couple of responses inside of Google. One of them here is from Guru 3D. This is the one I usually download. It's also from WagNerdSoft. Either one will work. So we'll go to WagNerdSoft here. Basically, this is Display Driver Uninstaller. This is what you're going to want to download. Okay. So all you've got to do is, if you take a look, there's a little hand right here. You can do read more, but if you click, it's going to bring you to this page. Just scroll down. You'll get an option to download. And then inside of here, you can do download DDU portable and self-extracting, or the installer. I usually do the portable and self-extracting. Click on that. It'll go ahead and download. And then we're going to go ahead and extract this. Okay. So what you're going to get when it first launches is, first time you've launched DDU before using it, they want to make sure that you've got a backup, everything's all set, all the things that you might need, make sure that there's always a problem, they'll give you a hand. So another box will pop up after you hit okay to that, and it's pretty much just all the default options. And I leave these just checked as default. I don't go through and pick anything else to be removed. If you want, you can. So there's other things in here like remove the physics driver or keep the NVIDIA control panel in program settings. Right? But basically it's picking the three big. You've got NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel. And then you've got advanced options down here like enable safe mode or prevent downloads of drivers, such and such. If you've got unique use cases, I haven't really had to use any of these additional options. But if you've got unique use cases where you have, maybe chime in down below if you've ever got any of those, but I've never had to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And then it says, DDU is not detected you're in safe mode. They say for a better cleanup without issues, they recommend that you reboot into safe mode. So to boot into safe mode, one of the easiest ways to do it is to go into msconfig, type it down here in the search bar. It brings up the option to go to boot. You go to the boot tab, hit safe boot, and then hit OK. Just make sure that when you are done in safe mode, you turn this off, because if you don't, it's going to continually boot into safe mode. But for me, I am not going to run DDU in safe mode. I'm going to run it here. So now that it's up here, I'm going to go ahead and select the device type. The device type is a GPU, and it's an NVIDIA GPU, right? That's what I'm actually going to be uninstalling, because I'm removing my NVIDIA 3080, and I'm going to be going to a 7900 XTX. So what do I do next, right? Over here on the left, you've got clean and restart, clean and do not restart, and clean and shut down. So what'll happen is when you run through these different issues, there may be a problem, where, hey, I don't want to restart just yet, or I, need to restart, whatever it may be. For what we're going to be doing, because we're installing a new graphics card, I'm going to cleanly shut down the machine so that when I reboot the machine, I'll be able to install the new drivers. Now, what I usually like to do is I'll usually like to prep and get the drivers first. So since I'm going to an AMD, I'm going to get the AMD drivers. So I'm going to go over to resources and support. There's Radeon and AMD chipset drivers. I'm going to select drivers, and I'm going to download Windows drivers. They also have Linux drivers, and it's going to download the package. That way I can just run this when I reboot, and it'll install the Adrenalin drivers and all the things that it needs to do. I don't have to worry about it later. All right, once that's downloaded and done, I'm going to close out, and I'm going to do clean and shut down for installing a new graphics card. And it's going to create a system restore point and do the things that it needs to do in case you ever have to roll this back. But there's nothing else that you're going to have to do from your side. So while the machine is going through its steps, we're going to go ahead and unbox this video card, and we'll see what's in the box. So the Taichi stuff is actually some of my favorite stuff, from the motherboards to the video cards. ASRock does some pretty good stuff. So I'm actually pretty excited to get this thing up and running and installed for the first time, because I've been sitting on it for a little too long. Not too much in the box, other than a massive chunker of a video card. So this thing is huge. And we'll take the 3080 out here in a second and we'll do it for comparison, but this thing is, we've got the 3 plugs there. You've got I should put it the right way. You've got LEDs for BIOS and fans if you want quiet or performance mode for the BIOS. So really solid card, really excited. You've got your HDMI and then 3 display ports on the bottom here. So HDMI and 3 display ports. So really nice card. So definitely a solid card. Can't wait to get some tests done on it. So we'll put that off to the side for right now. All right, so here we have the rig. We're going to be replacing that video card in there. That is the GeForce RTX 3080, so we're going to pull that out real quick. I do have to run, as you can see, I've got to run some additional power adapters, and I'm actually going to be pulling some other cables out of here because this is actually running with a sound card that I don't need anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this panel off real quick. And for anybody that's interested, this is a Be Quiet Dark case. It's been a pretty solid case so far, but it is a beast, and it doesn't have the greatest airflow for sure. So we're gonna go ahead and walk through this. So scoot this over a little bit this way. There we go. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect the power real quick. So we'll pull these 2 cables out. And I will have to run some additional cables, so we'll route those cables. I'm going to disconnect this sound card as well. So this sound card still uses, oh man, it wants to. Still uses an old Molex connector. It was actually a really good sound card. So, but as you can see, if we zoom in a little bit, as you can see, we've got thumb screws on this one. These ones are easily to be able to take out by hand, which is good. So we're gonna pop these out real quick. There goes the sound card. There it is. It's an old Asus sound card. Right here. It's an old Asus sound card. Nowadays, you don't really have to use a sound card, but this worked really well back in the day. Now everything's USB and everything else. And I just don't need it anymore. So we're gonna get rid of it. Okay. All right. Next, a couple things to note. We're gonna pull that thumb screw's in there, and so is that one. So out comes our iFixit toolkit. And we'll get our Phillips bit. And we'll just, personally, I like to just give these a little crack just so I can get them by hand. That way I don't lose them somewhere in the case. There's one. And here's 2. Now, one thing I'm disappointed with this build is this is an AM4 build, and sadly, I am out of M2 slots for additional storage, which is kind of disappointing. Now, one thing to notice is on a lot of the newer boards and sometimes the older boards, they're getting smart. There is a quick release button for the video card. So right now, this video card does not want to come out. And do not force it, because there is a security latch on the back side underneath here that you have to push down to release it. Sometimes you can't get in there with your hands. So sometimes trusty screwdriver will come in hand. But down here, right down here, there's a little latch. And I'll see if I can get a view of it with the with the camera. We can zoom in. It's a little latch right here, little gray latch. You've got to push that latch down and let it snap open. So there it goes. Heard a little pop. And you can see the video card kind of lifts up a little bit. Once that latch is down, just pull up on the video card. Sometimes you got to finagle it because it sticks, whether it's over here, and there you have it. There's the video card. Now this video card's been, running pretty good for a while. It's got definitely got some dust on it. We'll get it cleaned up because this bad boy is going to go into another rig. But there we have it. So there's the video card. Here's a better view of the latch right here. So we'll zoom in real quick. Right here. So here's your latch. Now some new motherboards will have a quick release latch that like runs around over here and you can kind of push the button. It's a very smart feature. It's on some of the newer boards. This board doesn't have that feature. We just have the M2 slots here, a heat sink for whatever's underneath there for the south bridge, and then just the rest of the connectors over here. So, but one thing we need to do is we need to get rid of this cable, this Molex cable. I no longer need it, so I'll pull those accessory cables, and I need to install a new plug for the VGA. So we're going to go and get that started. But in order to do that, I am going to have to flip this guy around, I believe, on the back side to get to the cables. Unless this, I don't remember if this actually comes up because it's been forever since I've been in this case, and I don't think it does. Nope, it's all on the back side. So we're going to flip this around, take the back side off, and we're going to run those cables real quick, and then we'll install the video card. So we've got the back side open here. Everything is kind of exposed for us. Power supply is right here, my Superflower. It's definitely going to be a little tricky to get in here to run that cable. So I'm going to lay it down on its side here in a second. You guys get to see my lovely cable organizing job. Nobody sees the back of this, so don't worry about that. Doesn't have to be perfect because the first time you start ripping stuff apart, it's going to go a little south on you. So let's make some room over here. I'm going to lay this guy on its side so we can run that second line. All right, and this is the compartment we have to get down into, which is going to be a little pain because I think I've got two VGAs that are at the top right here. Probably hard to see from a camera angle, and my fat head. But I think I've got two more right below it, so it won't be that difficult. And then we will route those up and through. And the Molex, I think we're just going to push off to the side. So this is the part that I was telling you guys earlier in the video. This is what you don't want to have to replace, right? So these cables, these all run to the power supply, your main line going to your motherboard, all your accessory cables. If you have to replace your power supply to install a video card, you're going to have a very, very long day doing so, right? Because you've got to just take all of this out and rewire everything. It's a much larger job to swap that out versus just, adding a couple cables, because this really isn't a super big deal to add additional cables. So for us, I've got my certified cables. And make sure when you run these, most of the time, you should have two connectors like this on one end, and then on one end, you should have a connector with a single connector that says VGA, right? They all will say VGA on the ends here, but the two that have the two ends, these are gonna go towards the video card, and this is gonna go to your power supply. So in order to do this, I go ahead and just route this through as best as I can so that I can grab it from the other side. So there's a gap right there, so I'll just push it up through. And then I'll take the cable, and to the best of my ability with my fat hands, I will try to get it plugged in, hopefully without much effort and without pulling other cables down. We should just be able to plug it in to the other VGA ports down below. Now, not all the same ports are on the same side of all the power supplies, so keep that in mind. You'll have to see where yours are. This is a difficult side, but if it doesn't go, then you know you're in the wrong port. But you should hear an audible click like that, and that's it. Our cables are installed. The back panel can go back on. So we've got our new cables right here. The existing cables are right here. Everything else is there. I'm gonna just take this Molex and I'm gonna push the Molex out of the way. Ignore the back of my fat head. Now we're gonna get the video card installed. Now this video card is beefy. It's heavy. And just for comparison, here's the new one. That would have been bad. Here's the old one. So it's, we'll shift it over. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bigger. So this is the old 3080. And then here's the new one. So it's a chunker. So we're gonna take the protective cover for the PCI slot off, and I like to put it back on the old ones. I'm gonna do my nice peel. Make sure you get your plastic off. Get the plastic off here. And then make sure there's no plastic on the back, which we do. Get the plastic off of the back here, like so. Make sure there's no other plastic anywhere else, which I don't think there is. And we're gonna go ahead and install it. Now, there's a case like this. If you take a look on my terrible camera angles. Let's get rid of this stuff real quick. All right, so if we take a look, as we're installing it, we need to remove one more slot. So over here, we've got a dust cover that's being blocked, because this is a triple card, and the other one was actually a double slot. We need to remove one more slot from there. So this guy right here, we're just gonna take out. And this one requires the screwdriver, because it's in there pretty good. There we go, screwdriver's out. I'll take the dust cover out, no longer needing it. And we'll install the video card. Make sure your cables are out of the way. Make sure the slot, so make sure your slot lines up and just give it a little bit of pressure. If it's not going in, make sure that latch is opened on the bottom there. Make sure it's fully lined up. And make sure your cables aren't blocking anything, because sometimes the cables will block it. All right, so once it's lined up, push it in. You hear that audible click, and once you do, she's in there. So go ahead and get your thumb screws and go ahead and screw everything back together. So this is where the screwdriver comes in handy as well. There we go. Those are in there. Now I had the slot in there, so I'm going to take this dust cover and I'm going to slide it down over here. And we're going to cover up where that sound card was. We'll put that thumb screw back in. There we go. We've got everything covered up in the back again. And now we're going to wire up the video card. So for me, I try to keep things tidy with some Velcro in here, just to keep the video card looking spiffy. You don't have to, you can just throw it whichever way you want. But we're gonna wire this guy up, so we'll cable number 1. Cable number 2, if I can keep it together. I also can't see without getting my fat head in the camera angle here. There we go. Camera number 2. No, cable number 2. And last but not least, cable number 3. That's easier. All right. So now what I tend to do is I'll group all these together as best as I can. And I'll use my trusty Velcro. Keeps me out of jams every so often. And I will just wrap these so they're at least somewhat organized. If you have better Velcro than this, it's great, but just keeping these out of the way for right now. And that's it. Now, since these cards are heavier, hey, you got a little bend to it. No, yeah, a little bend, all good. Since these cards are heavier, AMD, or ASRock, did ship a graphics card stand to go in the case itself. Now, unfortunately, I don't have anything down below to support that. There are other alternatives on how you can actually do that, but I have an opening down here that goes down to a hard drive. I don't have a plate that sits on top of here, but I could always put something in here. But they are heavier cards, and they can put tension and pressure on that slot. So if you do have a graphics card holder or something to hold it up, it is recommended that you use those. Let me see if I can find the one that they provided real quick, and I'll show you. Okay. All right. So here is the video card stand that they provided. So it's like this little baggie full of parts. They don't really give you any instructions on how this goes. So make sure if you're going to use something like this that you take some time to put it together. But there are other alternatives out there as well when it comes to the stands itself. So again, they don't give you too much. They give you some screws, a washer that fell on the other side they'll have to fish out now, and a bunch of baggies, and the stand itself just to try and hold it up. But I'm not going to use one. I don't really think I need to. We'll see how the weight of the sag is when I flip it up. If I think so, I'll probably grab a third-party one, just because depending on how this is, I don't really have a spot down there. I don't want it to sit on top of that hard drive. So that's it. This is all hooked up. Cables are in place. Video card's mounted. We're going to go ahead and plug it back in, get it hooked up, and boot back into Windows. Be right back. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is install that driver. So we downloaded that driver earlier, so I'm just going to go to my downloads. And I'm going to double click the AMD and Adrenalin software. We're going to get this installed. Now, Windows should boot with just a generic driver that pops up here. It's going to go through, make sure everything's here, get everything double checked, and then it's going to get everything updated and installed. A few minutes here, it looks like about 5-10 minutes. We're going to let this download the packages and do all the install that it needs to get everything up and running, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now that Windows is back, the drivers have been installed. There's a couple things that you probably want to check just to make sure. So right click on your screen, you should see AMD software for the Adrenalin edition. You can open that up. This is similar to the NVIDIA control panel, the NVIDIA app, whatever they've updated to in the past. This is going to walk you through basically giving through your first experience. If you want to play, capture, share, live stream, get all that stuff squared away. So if you want to walk through that quick setup, you're more than welcome to. Me, I'm just going to skip this for right now. Now inside of here, it's just giving you an idea of, what do you want to do with the software? This is the current version and the drivers that you're running. You've got alerts up here. Not going to do a deep dive into the software, but if it's something you need to actually do, you can check out gaming and you can check out your graphics and you can make all the adjustments that you need to here based on your, current drivers, whatever you want to do. So here you've got like the super resolution, your fluid motion frames, which is similar to FrameGen. Stuff like that. So take a look at these settings. If there's things in here that you're interested in, go ahead and use. But the one thing that you are going to want to take a look at is if you close out of this software and you right click back on your desktop and you go to display settings, inside of your display settings, you're going to want to make sure underneath advanced display settings that your display drivers are running at their maximum hertz. So make sure you go ahead and select your maximum hertz for your display. So in this case, this screen runs at 165. My secondary screen, it should only run at 120 because it's connected. It's a different type of monitor. They should both support everything from an HDR perspective, but make sure you set those so that you can go ahead and, utilize the full version of your screen. Now, my other screen here is an Elgato capture card. It maxes out at 100 hertz, which is more than enough. I don't need to worry about it. It's just a capture card, and I'm screen mirroring over. But I want my primary screen, which is my ultra wide, which is connected to that. I want it at 165 hertz, which is what it is. So once that's said and done, I want to fire up a benchmark. I ran this benchmark a little bit earlier with the Monster Hunter Wilds in my 3080, and I was curious as to what this benchmark is going to run with the 7900 XTX, because I've been an NVIDIA snob for quite a long time. So I just want to run this Monster Hunter benchmark real quick and let's see what we get. So video cards installed. We're going to go ahead and run the benchmarking tool for Monster Hunter Wilds here again. So I ran this on my 3080 a couple days ago and did a video about that. So that'll be up at the top if you guys want to check that out for running it on older hardware, such as 8700K and a 1080 or a 3080. But we're going to take a look at the options here real quick. Going to want to turn off a few things that I'm not a fan of. Let's see. So we're going to run this. It's already running an AMD FSR, no more DLSS. Not going to run frame gen. We're going to run it at the highest settings. Looks like it's set for ultra. So we're going to set this as ultra. It's using about 8 gigs, which is pretty crazy because I've never had over 10 gigs of use. And yeah, we're going to let this run. Is there anything else on? So ray tracing is off. The only thing I want to turn off is motion blur. I don't like motion blur. So I'm going to turn motion blur off. All right, so this is on the ultra settings with the 7900 XTX. Let's go ahead and let this rip.
Okay. As soon as we find a good spot, we can get things set up and ready to go. And then we can get started. This is gonna be great.
You bet.
Yeah. I hope we find them soon.
Look!
Hard to part!
Aye!
There's so many.
They're exceptionally agitated. Could they be chasing something?
It's a person! Bring us closer!
And crash right into them!
We're still too far away! What do we do? Hold on. What's that?
That's all right.
Can you reach it?
I have to try.
I'm coming too! Welcome! Please
Go ahead, help yourselves.
Mic check. So if you stuck with me through the whole video, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Installing a video card these days is relatively straightforward. It's not very difficult. Just making sure that having everything prepared, your right cables, having the right power supply to support your new video card, those are the critical pieces. So if you check all your boxes and do your preparation, installing a new video card is really easy. You know, you don't have to take it to your Best Buy, your Geek Squad, whatever it may be. It is one of those things that you can kind of self-service yourself. Makes things a whole lot easier. If you don't have the preparation or you're still scared, you know, do your research. You know, if something you're not comfortable with, you can take it to somebody. It's perfectly fine. But for a lot of people out there, I know one thing about installing a video card can be daunting. So don't let installing a video card turn you away from actually giving it a shot. It is very simple for the most part. I know it can be scary, opening up the PC and pulling the parts out and putting it in, making sure you don't break anything, because some of these things can be quite delicate. For the most part, you should be okay. So just, you know, take it with a grain of salt, take your time, have some patience, and you should be good to install it. That is going to do it for this video. So I really appreciate everybody that tuned in, watched through the whole thing. These are my steps that I take to install the video cards, the driver wipe, getting Windows prepped. You know, primarily I work on Windows machines, Linux, a little bit different. AMD though, if you guys are interested, AMD is fantastic for Linux. NVIDIA, not so much. Their driver compatibility can be kind of a pain. AMD has some really good support when it comes to Linux and stuff like that. But again, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys are interested in, you know, more videos like this, more installs, very simple ones, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Additionally, if you're looking to upgrade to a new video card this year, what are you targeting? What are you looking for from a video card perspective? Are you looking to go to NVIDIA, or are you waiting for AMD's offerings? You know, leave a comment down below. Curious to what other people are shopping around for and looking for, because I know the video card market is definitely very volatile right now. So with that being it, we're going to sign off with this video, and we'll catch you guys all in the next one. Have a good day.